Hey, this is Bob Boross, and this is my Jazz and Tap Dance Life. Welcome back. Today we're going to be talking about something a little bit different. I know I get lots of questions as I've been teaching for so many years and in studios and universities, advice for dancers. Of course, everybody wants to know, how do I move on in my career? How do I become a professional dancer? And that is something that maybe I've had a lot of experience in terms of going through the process and meeting and mentoring so many people who have gone through that process. So I'm just going to give you some of my ideas on certain things you can look for and certain things you can plan for, and hopefully that's going to help you get to where you want to be. So this is going to be good advice for young dancers and young jazz dancers in particular. The first thing I think you need to do is you really need to take a good hard look at yourself, because the business is a rough business. As you surely know, there's a tremendous amount of competition. You can go for a job in a Broadway show, they need 5 people and there's 300 people there. How are you going to be the best person who's there? Okay, so finding out who you are, what your level is, and how you're going to compete is the first thing you want to judge. So the first thing you need to look at yourself and really say is, what is my talent? What is my talent for this thing that I'm doing, and does it match up with what my dream is? It may be something that, yes, you're talented, you have the flexibility, you have the coordination, you have the natural attributes, I think is what I'm talking about here, that's going to enable you, or at least give you the chance to make a go at it. You need to be serious. You need to really take a good stock of yourself and think of what you're working with. If you want to be in a professional ballet company and your feet are just not up to what you need to be in terms of point work, that's something you need to think of. Okay, it may not be that you're going to get to that certain level you're hoping for, but maybe there's a different level. So first thing is really look at your level of talent as you compare yourself to other people and what that goal is that you want to be. And it's not that everybody has to be fully talented as possible, because how you work with your talent is definitely an important thing. But there just needs to be a really good assessment of, where am I at, and do I realistically have the natural attributes that will be needed to be successful in this career. So that's the first thing you want to look at, even from a younger age. The second thing, which is kind of going from the initial part of what I just said of talent to the end part of vision. So you're looking at the bookends. Well, where do you want to be? What is your vision for yourself? What do you hope to be? What is that big long-term goal that's really going to satisfy you? You need to not only just have a basic idea, I want to dance on Broadway. I want to be in a company. That's very nebulous. It's very generic. You need to make it much more specific as to who you want to be, what type of dancer you want to be, at what level you want to be dancing at. What is your vision? Okay, so if you can define exactly what that vision is, where you might be, say, when you're 25 years old and a professional dancer, in every aspect of what that can be, then you can devise the necessary plan to make that happen. So don't just say, I want to be a Broadway dancer. Say, I want to be a Broadway dancer who excels in ballet as my foremost activity. I'm also trained in jazz and tap. I sing at this level. I'm taking acting lessons. I know this variety of shows that are the right shows for me, that suit exactly who my type is, etc. This is the field. These are all the people who are involved in the field. I know the big players. You need to define that whole aspect so you can say, okay, where am I now and where do I want to be? So really sit down, look at what's out there, and define your vision, and know that your vision may change as you go along. What you say now, suppose at 16 years old, may not be what you're going to say when you're 23 or 24. So your vision is a very important thing of who you want to be. Going along with that is knowing the field. Every form of dance is going to have a field, whether it's modern, contemporary, tap dance, ballet. There is a genre of people who are the big hitters in that field. Who are those people? Who are the big companies? What is the history? What are the big choreographies that you should know about? How did this field develop? It didn't come out of thin air. If it had a 60 or 70 year development phase like jazz dance, or even a little bit longer like modern dance, you need to know all of those aspects to be a fully informed person, which means you're going to need to do research. And by research, I mean, of course, the internet is great. You want to Google everything, but that is not everything. You need to go to a library. You need to check out a book. Books will be much more in depth and much more of what we call critical analysis of what your field will be. So that's a basic thing, is you need to know what is that field. You can't enter it and say, okay, I want to be in a certain level of Broadway performance, and meanwhile you only know shows from the last 10 years. That is not something that's going to be working for you. So you don't want that to happen, okay? Know your field. After that, once you have your talent and you have the vision of what you want to be, you know what the field is, then of course you want to work on what is my plan. How do I develop myself? Where am I going to take my classes? How am I going to improve myself so that I have those skills? And there's certainly so many things that you can choose from, whether it's your local studio that you're working with, whether you want to go to college, when you want to bypass college, go straight to a major city like New York or Chicago or LA and take your training there. How do you want to make all of these things happen? You have a certain amount of time to prepare. You have a certain amount of time to make yourself ready for what you need to do. So that time has to be very well spent. So figure out exactly what your plan is and how to do. I do want to give you a couple of tips that I found in terms of making yourself better. One of them is how you practice. How you practice to get better. I know in terms of taking dance classes, you know, what you do is you take as many classes as possible in a week. Okay, that's great. Well, that's a group class. So you're in a class, you're doing what everybody else is doing, and you're working for yourself as much as possible. But what you also need to do is work on yourself at your own time. And one thing I found is that students will take so many classes per week, and then once the class is over, it's as if it goes out of their head. They don't think about what they did in that class ever again because they're thinking, okay, tomorrow I have my next class. A really important thing to do is to take something that was maybe a troublesome thing for you in the class, or something you need to work on, or something you really want to explore a little bit more, and find your own time to practice. Practice on your own. And I know it's tough finding a studio space or finding somewhere where you can do it, but if you take from your, say, 2 ballet classes and 2 jazz classes a week, there's probably 4 things you could work on. At some point during the week, 2 to 3 times a week, find your own time, work on those things on your own. Just go through a combination slowly and really feel every aspect of the combination, every position, every full stretch. Take your time and really fully explore it. That's what I call self-exploration, so that you are working yourself at your own pace, making yourself go through that process. That is much different than being in a class where there's a general correction given and it's sort of for everybody and not for you in particular. So learning for yourself and taking yourself through the process is really, really an important thing to do in terms of making yourself as good as you possibly can be. So I would definitely stress finding time to practice on your own on a weekly basis, in addition to taking the classes. The second thing is trying to find private lessons. Of course, private lessons are extremely expensive. But if your goal is that you want to be a professional, this is what's going to help get you there. You need one-on-one time with someone who is a total professional and a total mentor to you. Not to take one private class, but to try to take private classes for a longer period of time, maybe a year, maybe even longer than that, with somebody who's really in the know, somebody who can really help you, because they're going to take their professionalism and instill it in you at your younger age. That's what you want to do. You want to get to that level of what that person is. Even if you can only afford a private lesson once a month, okay, that's it. But try to get as much as you can out of it, and then go back to your own personal practice and work on that as much as possible. So just remember, group classes are great, but that is not the only way to learn. Private instruction and self-directed instruction is going to be very important for you to find where your direction is and to improve yourself as a dancer as much as possible. Okay, next thing I want to talk about is drive. Okay, you need to want it. Obviously, dance is a very tough business. It's not a well-paid business. You've got to want this, and you need to say to yourself, I'm going to put in all of my resources, all of my time, all of my effort. If you do it halfway, you are not going to get there, unless you were so super talented that it would just happen for you. But that's like extremely rare that that would happen. Okay, so I call this the ruthless devotion to achieving your vision. Ruthless devotion. Every day, every class, Every spare moment that you have, you're devoting it to reading books, learning more about your field, learning more about the people, watching great people on video and trying to assimilate those qualities into your dancing. You have to be on it every day, day after day after day. If you just take 2 classes a week and then Tuesday, Thursday, and then you don't think about dance again until Tuesday rolls around, no, it's not going to be there. It's going to fall back. You need to find time to be on it all the time, because if it's your profession, you need to be at that level of how well you have invested yourself in trying to be that type of person that you want to be. So perseverance is the key. Perseverance not over a short amount of time, not over 3 months. I'm talking perseverance over 3, 5, 7 years. That sort of perseverance is what's going to get you to where you need to be. So drive is a very important thing, and I'm going to go back and match that with talent, okay? Because we talk about, oh, someone may be so much more talented than you. You look at another dancer in class, they have so much talent. Okay, that doesn't mean you don't have it. Maybe they have a lot, but how you develop that talent goes with the drive. Sometimes you can see very talented people and they just don't know how to work because things come easy to them. So actually their progress is minimal. They're sort of what their natural level of ability is. I always said the great dancer is somebody who's got talent, but not too much talent, but they have a tremendous amount of drive. And they know how to develop their talent because they know how to work that hard at it to make it happen. So drive and perseverance over time is going to be a very important thing for you.